My relationship with my mother changed dramatically when I hit puberty, which is apparently happening right now. It changed dramatically, and I'd like to say that it changed for the better, but the opposite is true. And so we endured tough years in my teenage years and later on. And while she needn't be the focus of this story, I wish she weren't, she actually will be. Because when I called her to tell her that I had proposed to my then girlfriend, now wife, who's sitting over there, her response was, "Are you sure?" Now, this is not something that we were surprised by, given that she had never been so kind to my girlfriend, now wife. There are several occasions in which she was downright rude, and it almost seemed as if she was trying to protect me from her, almost as if that moment when I hit puberty was a change for her as well, where she needed to sort of say to every woman in the world, "This is mine, and you will not have it. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that he stays untethered to anyone but me." So we had to sort of fight through that as a couple in those early stages. And one of the early battles that we fought was on a deck outside a bar in Cape Cod, where we were discussing the particulars of the wedding, which, of course, my mother decided that she didn't like any of. We could have said, we're going to be dropped from airplanes, from parachutes, we're going to swim through shark-infested waters. It didn't matter what we said we were going to do, she wasn't going to like it. So it became pretty obvious to us that we needed to put this whole thing together ourselves, regardless of her help. She didn't like that either. So as we sat on the Cape Cod deck, and I explained to her, listen, we're going to do this wedding ourselves. We're going to invite 80 people. It's going to be very small. It's going to be our kind of thing. Her response was, well, I'm paying for it, aren't I? Don't I get to make some terms my own? And our response was actually, no, we're going to pay for this. So that upset her. You can hear her giggling at that. So that upset her tremendously. That evening, I believe, ended with me throwing a highball glass into the Atlantic Ocean. It's still floating there somewhere today, I imagine. We got through a long engagement. Long because at every step of the way, my mother had something to say about what we were doing, where we were doing it, the fact that we weren't having kosher food because we're Jewish, and all of a sudden this was really important to her, became a big deal. The venue was a big deal, the date was a big deal, the people that we were inviting or not inviting was a big deal. There were long, drawn-out, very, very, very painful conversations that we had with her. You would think that by the time we got to the day of the wedding, mother of the groom, she'd be happy, she'd be over these sorts of things. But she actually tried to turn the day of the wedding into her own little parade as well. And so during the actual ceremony, I've learned since she was sitting next to her best friend, who is an evil person, okay? An evil person. You ever come across Suzanne Merkel? Run the other way. If she's in the room tonight, she'll make herself known, and you can give her a piece of your mind. Anyway, Suzanne Merkel and my mother were sitting next to each other and apparently snickering throughout the entire ceremony. Solemn, we attempted to be really low-key about it. And I don't remember the quote exactly, but I think Suzanne Merkel said something along the lines of like, that ceremony, my eyes were dry throughout the entire thing. As a way to sort of show my mother in solidarity, that she was in solidarity with her, and that this wedding was no wedding that she was ever going to have an emotion about. Later on that afternoon, my mother and father were both late to the ceremonial signing of the ketubah, which is the Jewish marriage ceremony, the marriage document that you sign. We were all waiting around for about 20 minutes for my mother to show up, because she decided at that time that this is a good time to kind of like do her own thing and leave everybody waiting. So this is how she sort of like set the tone for our marriage. And it's been many, many years since then. And, my wife and I have come through a lot. My mother is no longer alive, but she still sort of haunts us in a way. And there are certain things that come up every now and again that remind us of her. I will say this, though. Despite my mother's attempt to negatively impact my relationship with the woman who became my wife by asking me if I was sure that during the very phone conversation that you have with your parents, where they're supposed to be excited, there's supposed to be some sense of ceremony, or, oh, you're getting married, that's wonderful. There are any number of other possibilities that that a person could say in response to that. Even neutral would be great as well. I got, "Are you sure?" with disdain, utter disdain. And so I knew where she stood all along. And even though she was someone who feigned happiness and feigned compassion and feigned love, we all sort of saw through it. So all these years, this is turning out to be really depressing, but all these years later, with all the things that my wife and I have gone through now, we've been married for, what's the number, 20-something years? It's been a while. I'm happy to say that I didn't fall in for the negativity. I moved on beyond my mother trying to keep me tethered all those years. And it's pretty clear that I did make the right choice. And now that I'm in my 40s and have children of my own, I know all the mistakes that I'm not going to make. And when a child rings me to say that I'm going to marry this person, even if they're a purple dragon, my response will be absolutely wonderful. Do what you want to do. All my love.